You could poke right through the outer skin of the spacecraft. It was about the thickness of 2 layers of aluminum foil. But it's the kind of thing that you were reasonably cautious that you didn't jab any pointed objects through.
The skin of the lunar module is so thin that you could punch a hole right through it.
The skin, the aluminum alloy skin of the crew compartment was about 12 thousandths of an inch thick. That's equivalent to about 3 layers of Reynolds wrap that you would use in the kitchen.
Oh my God, dude.
By cables, as there is no exhaust, just the explosive bolts going off and the side of the spacecraft being blown out. The LEM, we are told, was a very thin-skinned, lightweight machine. If it encountered any kind of explosion, especially one of this magnitude,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mayan Spacecraft Center. This is the Apollo 11 press conference. The format today will consist of a 45-minute presentation by the Apollo 11 crew, followed by question and answers. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Apollo 11 crew, astronauts Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Edwin Aldrin. Neil?
It was our pleasure to have participated in one great adventure. It's an adventure that took place not just in the month of July, but rather one that took place in the last decade. We all here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that adventure over its developing and unfolding in the past months and years. It's our privilege today to share with you some of the details of that final month of July that was certainly the highlight for the three of us of that decade. We're going to divert a little bit from the format of past press conferences and talk about the things that interested us most, in particular the things that occurred on and about the moon.
Would each of you give us your estimate of what is the meaning of this to all of us?
You want to try that?
After you.
Today we have with us a group of students among America's best. To you, we say, we have only completed a beginning. We leave you much that is undone. There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers. One of truth's protective layers. There are places to go beyond belief. Those challenges are yours. in many fields, not the least of which is space, because there lies human destiny.
You sometimes seem uncomfortable with your celebrity, that you'd rather not have all of this attention.
No, I just don't deserve it. No, I just don't deserve it.
Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen, so in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going.
What was the scariest moment of the journey?
Scariest. It didn't happen. It could have been scary. Circuit breaker.
Well, let's talk about this, because this is fascinating. I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does, I remember my parents waking me up and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation.
There wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation.
See, you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories.
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, but what we saw was we all were gathered around the old curved top radio and listened.
Talking about, you know, how many feet we were going to the left and right, and then I said, contact light, engine stop.
It was
and
exciting.
A few other things, and then Neil said, Houston, Tranquility Base, the Eagle has landed. Man, how about that?
That was very exciting.
Not a bad line.
Yeah, yeah. This was
not a bad line.
Yeah. People actually believe they walked on the moon. Talked with Nixon.
You serious?
Dziękuję, przyjęłam.
Played golf. Drove a car. And planted a flag.
If you really believe that Neil Armstrong took the first step, then why do you give any credit to the cameraman already there waiting for him?
These guys were all U.S. military men coerced into acting. They wanted the money and power that came with the deal, of course. The problem was, they were terrible actors. They couldn't even pretend to be excited, knowing they were lying to the world. But the show had to go on. Michael Collins and Neil Armstrong rarely spoke in public about it, but there was one man not shy about lying to your face. The spokesperson for the Apollo deception.
It's my pleasure to present Colonel Edwin Aldrin.
No handshake, hug, smile. Their facial expressions are similar to those experiencing constipation, not celebrating an accomplishment.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is with a great sense of pride as an American and with humility as a human being that I say to you today what no men have been privileged to say before. We walked on the moon.
I mean, they couldn't pay them enough to look up and smile? Society has always debated these planned Apollo events since day one, never imagining then that almost 50 years later, they haven't had the balls to fake another.
Are you afraid for the truth to come out?
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And imagination soar. We choose to go to the moon because they are hard. They are hard. Hard.
But to accomplish this extraordinary feat,
Hard. Because they're hard.
Reduce the impossible to the difficult, but because they are hard. Believe that we could do the difficult things because they were hard.
we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, and do the other thing, and do the other thing.
Operation Paperclip smuggled hundreds of Nazi scientists, including top SS officers on trial for war crimes, into the United States for use in America's Cold War space race. One of these Nazi Party members, Werner von Braun, was promoted to head up NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. Under Operation Paperclip, some 350 German scientists and former intelligence agents were given visas and well-paying jobs. The purpose of this massive and illegal undertaking appears to have been for the establishment of a worldwide authority on all things relating to space and astronomy. NASA became the public face of space. It has long acted as a front, providing an unsuspecting world with pseudoscience legitimized by the backing of the U.S. government. NASA is its own monopoly. It controls the dissemination of public information on astronomy while hiding facts it does not want the public to know.
When Alan Dulles brought in all the Nazi scientists and so forth, they went to two places. They went to CIA and they went to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which in our world we call it not a space agency. And as Kathy O'Brien has said so clearly, that's where the bulk of the mind control has been done. That's where the bulk of the mind control has been done. The mind control has been done.
Is that a plane or is it the rocket? Does it always go like that?
Yep.
It looks bad to me. It's in space, or is it? Is that it?
Yep, I think that's it.
Right in the middle. Oh no, it's going down!
Well, Mark. Peter, or Sandy, is it turning or is the Earth spinning?
A rainbow.
Sandy? It's not turning, the Earth is spinning. Sandy? That's going straight up, it's just the Earth is turning, we're moving away from it.
Is that what always happens? Does it always go like that?
Yep.
It looks bad to me. Is that what always happens? Does it always go like that?
Yep.
It looks bad to me. Oh no, it's going down! It's going down!
Sandy, is it turning or is the Earth spinning?
A rainbow.
Sandy? It's not turning, the Earth is spinning. Sandy?
Already.
That's going straight up, it's just the Earth is turning, we're moving away from it.
Is that what always happens? It looks bad to me. Oh no, it's going down! It's going down!
Sandy? Already. That's going straight up, it's just the Earth is turning, we're moving away from it.
This is also apparent by the fact that shortly after the rockets are out of view from onlookers at Cape Canaveral, NASA always changes from showing live, real footage to nothing but CGI for the rest of the broadcast. Anyone watching the NASA Artemis launch live will have noticed the stark contrast from the clearly real footage being received for the first few minutes to the clearly fake CGI footage being shown for the next several hours. For the next several hours, NASA ushered in their usual brigade of high-fiving mission controllers interspersed with truly terrible computer graphics, which they never admit are fake and constantly praise and talk about as if they are watching a live video feed. Nobody bothers to ask why we can't have multiple live videos facing all directions for the entire flight. Why do we only get whatever little snippets NASA decides to share, rather than full, unedited footage from multiple angles for the entire duration of the flight? Even if it could not be broadcast live, we, the NASA taxpaying public, deserve to see the entire journey, unedited, from launch to landing. Of course, we have never and will never see such unedited footage, which would be simple to provide if these missions were real. Every projectile shot straight upwards will eventually begin to arc, form a parabola, and come right back down to Earth, as evidenced by literally every rocket NASA has ever launched. These rockets are always shot with their arc facing the same direction, which just happens to be smack dab in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle. NASA says, of course, that the rockets are intentionally making this parabolic course so that gravity can somehow slingshot them into outer space, a completely unevidenced claim which their fanboys and fangirls just accept without question. For the skeptical, critical thinkers among us, however, a careful examination of the photo and video evidence proves that this is impossible. The extreme arc and angle, compared to the relatively short distance these rockets take on their parabolic course, shows they are clearly coming right back down to Earth.
Minus 10, 9, 8, we have a go for main engine start. We have main engine start, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The escape tower for the Soyuz now jettisoned.
Oh my god, dude. This is gonna be a good one. PS1
heavy rocket with NASA's Parker Solar Probe, a daring mission to shed light on the mysteries of our closest star, the Sun.
Good indication of stage separation. Head is deploying. We have pre-start on the RL-10. And we have ignition on the RL-10 engine. Engine chamber pressure looks good.
What it is. Our favorite NASA video.
It is a real honor to be able to touch base with the International Space Station, and that's what we're doing right now, visiting with Commander.
You see anything funny there?
Commander on the International Space Station.
There was a little wipe
Thank you so much for some of your time.
that you might have seen as they switched characters. Nothing unusual about that necessarily. They changed interviews. They just had a time switch, let's say, between that character and this character, who appears to be on a harness for sure, but we're not going to worry about that. We're not worrying about the harness. We're just worried about the wipe. I'm going to show it to you again. I believe they're on a green screen. In fact, it will be hard to dispute that that is a green screen in the background where the flags are waving. The flags are going to be our main clue here to what's going on and what I'm pointing out. Watch the wipe. Okay, so changing times. Yes, one time to a new time is what we're looking at, because people don't appear in a wipe in reality in the normal 3D world as we decode it. So watch, this is in reverse and forward. Watch the background. You see those flags? See how they stay in the same pattern? I'm going to go frame by frame here, okay? You see the wipe going from left to right. It's hitting the blue and yellow flag. I believe that's Sweden right now. And we're going through to the right. And you'll see the actor appear. The actor not. And you'll see the flags stay in a consistent motion. You would see a difference actually. I'm going backwards now. You see the background? It's actually in motion and remains the same. That is an absolute green screen fail.
Hello. Hello. Been here once before. Hello. Hello. Been here once before.
They're often portraying that this is live. Of course, these things are fully choreographed and edited in advance to make sure that there's nothing too obvious.
Looks CGI to me.
That gives away that this is a suspension in front of a blue screen.
We got Chris Hadfield exposing another technique these clowns use. In this instance, he's going to expose his harness to us as he bends down to pick something up.
After that, I read lots and lots more that just inspired me further, but that was really the one that set it all off.
And we can clearly see Chris's t-shirt protruding at 2 points, of course, where the cables from his harness are holding his weight. We know the special effects department have erased the cables, but they didn't actually erase the protruding parts of Chris's t-shirt there at the back, where the weight is coming through from the harness into the cables that they've erased. You can even see Chris's mate in the middle there, looking down, very awkward. Chris's back, as he can see the protrusion of the cables there, knowing that that's not actually a good thing to be doing. No, it's not. As we're about to see when we watch the lady, she gets yanked from the spot. It would seem her harness team didn't really have a very good day. Ready? Yank.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
The biggest challenge
Watch
is
this
the
guy.
harness
Harness.
system. Obviously, my body weight has
He just said he's on a harness. He's telling you. And he's going to do a harness check.
to be kept firmly attached to the harness. Kept firmly attached to the harness.
There goes the harness. Harnesses everywhere. They got the new ones in the legs now. They're getting real high tech with this shit. The CGI and all. See, they get you to watch all these movies so much, and all the movies are fake, but you think they're real.
Shoulders and around the waist. But I've got the harness fitting pretty well now. Unloosen your buckles, your harness.
Today, National Geographic and augmented reality company Indie are going to expose the International Space Station for us. Both are on the road, showcasing Indie's augmented reality technology to the general public. And as we're about to see, the way the general public interact with the augmented reality items is rather revealing, especially when we look at the second clip from the space station itself. As we're about to see, the general public, when interacting with the items, are looking away from the items they're interacting with. They're having to view it upon a screen, and then based on what they're seeing on the screen, then interact as a result of what they're seeing on the screen. Notice matey boy's here petting something, but again having to look off, looking at the screen to see what he's interacting with. And there we get to see them interacting with a leopard. Of course, mum looking at the screen. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was a great display of augmented reality. But of course, in doing so, what they've done here is expose the space station, as we're about to see. And now we've got a Canadian astronaut on the so-called space station interacting with this honey pot. And just like the general public showed us when they interacted with augmented reality, this astronaut's going to show us that he's interacting with augmented reality by spending most of his time looking beyond the item he's playing with, the honeypot, obviously at a screen, to see the item and gauge where it is better, and in doing so give out a more convincing performance. If you really wanted to be convincing, you would have looked at the item you were playing with all the time. There would be no reason to look beyond the item you're playing with. That is, unless of course you're looking at a screen to gauge and see where it is. So let's have a look at our mate expose himself, the space station, of course with the help of National Geographic and Indy and their augmented reality technology. Take it away, Spella. Our so-called astronaut mate here spends most of his time looking at the screen beyond the item he's interacting with. Just like the general public did, these so-called astronauts are able to wear contact lenses now that eliminate the use of the screen, which of course makes it obvious when we look at stuff like we've looked at today, and in doing so makes it a little bit more convincing. But of course there's still plenty of fails. I just thought that was great of National Geographic to show us the techniques which NASA have been using here to fool naive individuals into thinking that there's individuals like this character residing in a space station doing ludicrous speeds around a scientific obviously.
So many times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you. How do you explain bubbles in space?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. Now sometimes you get water in the helmet, and it's either from sweat or from the cooling garments. And in some of my spacewalks, I had like water in the helmet, not like I was going to drown in the helmet, but just little bits of water probably came from sweat. Often on the outside of the space station, you'll liberate little pieces of, it's a really harsh environment out there, and the outside of the space station gets beat up pretty good. And sometimes, you'll see just little flecks of paint or something that you might have disrupted floating away from the suit. And, that's generally what that is. I've never seen any kind of air bubble anywhere.
Yeah. Could it be that you're filming in an underwater pool and you're not really out there?
You got us.
All right, well, I just encourage everyone to look up bubbles in space, hashtag bubbles in space. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's been $45 to say that.
I got him free.
Don't spread the propaganda.
And in case there are any conspiracy theorists out there, how would you prove to us that you're in zero gravity?
What you said, don't know where your mind is really, but you're better off without it.
Oh, beautiful spiral. Well, sorry, Dr. Trump.
Jesus, Bill. Little light, little feather touch.
30-30. Oh, fumble. Recovery. Oh, man. It's a fumble on the board. 30. Whoa, 30.
How much does the circuit breaker back in the middle? Want it going? 30-30.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes our event.
My God, I see you clearly now. In my dreams, you're here with me somehow. Oh my God, I see you clearly now. In my dreams, you're here with me somehow. I see you clearly now. In my dreams, you're here with me somehow. Oh my God, I see you clearly now. In my dreams, you're here with me somehow.
The ones we all have trusted don't deceive.
like swimming. If you look at my arms aren't down by my sides like on Earth. My arms float up. And they sort of the same as water because there's no gravity pulling them down.
Little mermaid, sink or swim right up and look 'em in the eye. Swim, little mermaid, with your sword of truth that's time to pierce the sky.
So it's more like floating in water all the time, not swimming in water, because you can't pull against the air. It doesn't, I'll show you, it won't take me anywhere. It doesn't, I just stand here because the air is not as thick as water. So it's more like just floating in water forever. It's a beautiful freedom. It's lovely to be able to just float around. So try it next time you're in a pool.
Today I woke up in a rage to find this life, this world is just a stage. Only the truth will set us free. So it's time for you to wake up just like me. Little mermaid, sink or swim right up and look 'em in the eye. So swim, little mermaid, with your sword of truth that's time to pierce the sky. With your sword of truth that's time to pierce the sky.
Open the hook. Open the hook.
Truth, it's time to pierce the sky.
Scuba tanks in space, snorkels and scuba tanks in space.
I definitely haven't mastered it. I'll give you a trial and I'll show you just how bad it is.